So we know about recursive and we know about explicit arithmetic. Today we're going to do geometric sequences. So a geometric sequence is when you either multiply or divide to go from term to term. And how you get from term to term is called a ratio. And so that ratio has to be constant throughout the entire sequence, or it's not a sequence. So you can find your common ratio by dividing, and it doesn't really matter as long as there's two consecutive terms that you're dividing by. So I have it here as A2 divided by A1, but you could do your fourth term divided by your third term, or your 10th term divided by your 9th term. You could do, as long as the two are consecutive, it doesn't matter. So for this, we're going to find the common ratio and then find the next three terms. Now with this, because we're multiplying, the numbers will get larger quicker, or if we're dividing, the numbers get smaller quicker. So don't be surprised when you have very, very large numbers, like 6-digit numbers as your answers. So in order to find the ratio, you can probably tell, if you can't, we're multiplying by 3, but you could do 24 by 8, or divided by 8, and that's a 3. And then if you check it again, 72 divided by 24, that's also 3. So the ratio does seem like it's 3, and now we just start multiplying. So we take 216 times 3, and that's 648. And then 648 times 3 is 1944. And 1944 times 3 is 5832. So again, let's find the ratio of this one. Go second term, negative 128, signs matter, over 512. Put that in the calculator or reduce it yourself. This is negative 1/4, or you could call it negative 0.25. And then I'm going to leave it as negative 1/4 because that's a little bit easier to see that the negative 8 over 32 is, of course, negative 1/4 as well. So now we're going to take negative 8 and multiply by negative 1/4. So I know our ratio is negative 1/4. So that turns into a positive 2. 2 times negative 1/4 is negative 1/2. And then negative 1/2 times negative 1/4 is positive 1/8. So when you have a negative r, your signs will go positive, negative, positive, negative. And we don't really want to guess when we're trying to find the nth term. So we have a formula for the nth term. You will be given this formula. The formula is a sub n is equal to your first term times the ratio, but the ratio has a power of n minus 1. So a sub 1 is your first term, of course, we know that. That hasn't changed. What's new today is r. R is the common ratio. So that's the explicit rule, so we don't have to guess and check to find it. So let's try a few times with this. Remember, that formula can be used to find any of those variables. It's not just going to work left to right. So for this one, you can tell that our ratio is 4. And then, of course, our a sub n is going to be 3 times 4 raised to the n minus 1 power. Well, we're trying to find a sub 8. So we're going to have 3 times 4 to the 7th power. And so that is a large number, 49,152. I would recommend a calculator for these, obviously. Let's see, if we have negative 1,200 over negative 2,400, looks like positive 1/2 or 0.5 if you'd rather do that, and we can tell that's the same here. 300 divided by 600, so positive 1/2. So in order to find a sub n, it's the first term, negative 2,400, and then your ratio, which is 0.5, or I guess, 1/2, whatever you want to call that, and we're going to raise this to the 7th power, because we're still finding a sub 8. Throw that in the calculator. Clearly the numbers are getting smaller, so this number should be a lot smaller. So we have negative 18.75. That's a sub 8. Sorry, I called that a sub n. It's really a sub 8. All right, so let's go backwards. Here we have a sub 2. So we know that a sub 2 is equal to the first term times the ratio to the n minus 1 power. And so a sub 2 is really negative 8. We don't know a sub 1. So we have a sub 1 times 4. So we're just going to divide both sides by 4, obviously, and we get that a sub 1 is equal to negative 2. Now we got to find a sub 10. So a sub 10 is equal to the first term, and then the ratio to n10 minus 1, or ninth power. So a sub 10 is equal to negative 524,288. Now for this one, we know we have the first term and the sixth term. We're trying to find the 12th term. And if you would rather use just arithmetic to do this, then do it. If you can figure out how to go from term to term, you don't have to use these formulas. What you do have to do is justify your answer with your work. So our answer is 486. I don't know why I wrote 484. And our first term is 2. The ratio we don't know, but we're going to raise this to the 6 minus 1 power. So we have 486 equals 2 times r to the 5th. So we'll divide by 2. 243 is equal to r to the 5th. Now we're going to have to take the 5th root. We will not use logarithms. If you'd rather use a logarithm, of course you can, but we're not going to really get into it that much just because it's the end of the year. But logarithms obviously could come into effect with these because of the powers. You can plug this into the calculator if you go to math, and then you're looking for the x like that root, which means any root. And when you type that into the calculator, you have to type the 5 in first. Then you have to go to math, get that key, and then put in the 243. We end up with the ratio is 3. And so now we can answer the question. The 12th term is equal to 2 times 3 to the 11th power, because that's obviously 12 minus 1. So this is 354,294. Numbers are large. That's just the way it works. So with this one, we have the 5th term and the r, but we're looking for the 11th term. So since you have the r, if you want to just multiply, and keep track, do so. But if you're going to do it that way, don't just write down the answer. Please write down the entire list until you get there. All right, so you make a list or whatever you're going to do it, but don't just write down the answer, please. Makes it a little bit unbelievable that that's what you did. Okay, now I can't erase that. So we know that a sub 5 is equal to the first term, which we don't know. And then we have 1/2, and then this would be to the 5 minus 1 power of 4. Oh, what we know, sorry, we know this is 1/4. My bad. And then this, of course, is 1/16. 1/2 to the 4th power. So if you multiply both sides by 16, 16 divided by 4, so our a sub 1 is equal to 4. So now a sub 11 is equal to 4 times 1/2 to the 10th power, and that is 1 over 256. Now for this one, because you were given fraction, everything has a fraction, and your answer should be a fraction, but just use your calculator to switch it back to a fraction. Now I told you this wasn't going to go away, and look, here it is. Recursive and explicit formula. So for recursive, we would have to do, all right, we need a sub 1, and that would be a 2. And then how do we move on? A sub n is equal to, how do we get from, so negative 10 divided by 2, that's negative 5. 50 divided by, so it's negative 5. Our ratio is negative 5. And so then you can see we would just take the negative 5 and multiply that by the term before it. Explicit would be, these are actually a lot easier to write because there's not a lot of simplifying. So the formula is the first term, then the ratio, and then of course this is the n minus 1. If it's a sub n, you got to have an n in it. This is an a sub n, but it requires that you have the term before it, so you'd have to make the list. Geometric means. When you did this in geometry, you multiplied 2 numbers together and took the square root. So this is going to be roots, right? Because it is powers, is how it goes from term to term. All right, if I multiply by 5 and I multiply by 5 again, now I multiplied by 5 squared to get to that term. So this is power, so we're going to be doing the roots of numbers. So we have a sub 1, and then we'd have 2, 3, 4, and so then a sub 5, right? So we have 3 means, so we have 3 blanks, so 1, 2, 3, so a sub 5. So we know that negative 2,500 is equal to our ratio, a sub 1, and then the ratio, which we don't know, but we know that it's the 5th term, so it's to the 4th power. So then we get 625 is equal to r to the 4th, and then your 4th root on that same math key gives you 5. And so the means would be, we have negative 4, so we multiply that by 5, so then we would have negative 20, multiply that by 5, negative 100, multiply that by 5, negative 500, and if we multiply that by 5, we end up at the negative 2,500. So it seems like it works. One mean, so our list is 2, a blank, and then 9/8. So this is our 3rd term. So we know that 9/8 is equal to the 1st term times the ratio squared. So put it in the calculator if you want to. We're going to divide both sides by 2 or multiply by 1/2. So now we know that 9/16 is equal to r squared. And when we take the square root, we get 3/4. Now I know you get a plus or minus. We're going to use the positive. Well, you could use the negative because there's no way to tell, right? If the middle term was negative, then it would come out positive in the 3rd term. So pick one. I'm going to keep it positive. And so then the mean would be 2 times 3/4, which is 3/2. Now, the story problem. So we've got a truck, 45,000. Each year the truck depreciates at a rate of 18%. So we want to find the value. We don't want to find how much it depreciated. We want to find the value, the worth, 5 years later. So if it depreciated 18%, then the value is the rest of that money, or 100% minus 18%, or 0.82. So we're going to do this from the perspective of I'm going to find the answer rather than finding how much it lost and then subtract. I think that's a little bit easier on this. So let's break down what we know. We know that a sub 1 is 45,000. We know that the rate it's obviously depreciating, but we know that rate is 0.82. Ratio, same thing. And we know that our n from 2015 to 2020, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, is 6. So then we're going to find a sub 6 is 45,000, and then we have 0.82 to the 6 minus 1 power. Put that into the calculator, and we get that the value of the truck is $16,683.29.